is not talked about a whole lot. And I'm glad that we're finally able to have these conversations and feel a little bit more comfortable with talking about, origins, human migration, and is it diaspora or diaspora? Basically, humans have migrated, throughout the world, for tens of thousands of years now. I don't know how far it goes back, but I think it's a real good question that we have to answer, or we have to at least ask ourselves. A lot of people will say that the Bering Strait is a myth, and a lot of people, especially Native Americans or indigenous Chicanos, will also think that the Bering Strait is a false narrative to dispossess us of our lands, because it basically disconnects us from the lands. So if that's the case, I mean, I wasn't here a million years ago. I'm not going to act like I know everything, but I know that there is scientific evidence that points at the evolution of man. Really doesn't go back any further than 40 or 50,000 years. I want to say 40,000 years because that's what I saw on paper. And if you go back any further than 40,000 years, and you're really looking at a different type of skull, you're not really looking at the modern man as we know it. So for millions of years, there's been this evolution that's taken place, and this kind of conversation also, probably is going to start ejecting, some people that think that the world is only 2,000 years old, and that's kind of an interesting fact, because I mean, if you do believe that the world is only 2,000 years old, then really, you can't really have this conversation, because then there's not really going to be an evolution. There's not really going to be, all these other migrations that we're talking about. Because, when we start looking at the pyramids of Central America, like in, the Mayan areas where, we have, like the Great Pyramids. Are those pyramids over 40,000 years old? Of course they're not, And if you have any support thinking or saying that they are, I would love to see, that type of support, and where you find it, because there was no type of structures like that, prior to, these time frames. So I just want to be a little, critical in this particular area, just because, I think that it's important, that we, not only talk about that, but also talk about like the interesting, civilizations that were here, during the Olmec times. I saw a couple of ideas that are being perpetuated, on social media by some people that believe that the first Native Americans were really Africans. And when I say that they were Africans, they're saying that, like, the facial features of the colossal heads, those big, huge, humongous heads of the Olmecs, they call them baby heads. That's all they are. It's just a head, kind of like with a helmet on it. They're saying that those particular heads were, African peoples, or they have features of African peoples, or a lot of the paintings that are like Mayan paintings on the Mayan walls, were of Africans. And I find that interesting, only in the fact that, I've never, ever, ever, ever heard anything like that. I've always thought that that was a part of Native American history, and I've never heard anything else like that before. And I think that it just really challenges, the sovereignty, if you will, of our people not being, I guess, the original people, or the people that were smart enough to, have all the accomplishments that the Olmecs and the Mayas and, all the people of Mesoamerica were able to accomplish. All the great accomplishments now are being challenged to be given or rivaled to someone other than, our people. And I think that's why it's interesting. And I think that that's why these are the type of conversations that, we need to be having. And, you know when we're talking about human migration, a lot of people say that, the first humans, were basically from Africa. I don't have any qualms, with, what people think or what people believe, because I don't really know. I don't know how many millions of years ago that supposedly occurred, because back then I think that, people weren't even in their physical form that they are today. When they're making those statements, they're still saying that, people back then, I think, weren't even really Homo sapiens as they are today. They were like pre-Homo sapiens. They were like, I don't know, Neanderthals or Denisovans or some type of Homo erectus. And, the type of heads and the type of skulls of the humans, past 40 or 50,000 years ago, had different, they had different formations. They had different, how'd you say it? They didn't basically have the same kind of skull. They didn't have the same kind of foreheads. Even the jaw, was different. There was different, back head, different back ends of the head, and the way that it looked, and the size of like the cranium that would actually hold the brain, because the brain was actually getting, bigger. To house a bigger brain, you needed a different type of skull, and that's kind of what happened in the evolution of man. So those are just kind of the things that I think that are important, especially when you're talking about how long man has actually been on the continent of the Western Hemisphere, because you can also look at how far back some of the fossils go to do things like make tools, or writings on caves and walls, and using tools to kill big animals as game, for hunting or for food. Those kind of breakdowns also tell us, how man, was basically evolving into, hunter-gatherers, and also as like, farmers, to be civilized. They, one of the big things was, farming, or even art. Like, when was it that, people were actually drawing, on these cave walls? Was it before or after 40,000 years? These are the questions that, we should have as Chicanos. We shouldn't get upset. I don't think that we should even really get too religiously involved, because, once we start talking about religion, and, when, and what and how and